Good evening and welcome to the maiden edition of the Electoral Reform Town Hall on NTA News 24 Abuja. This program is brought to you by the Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PACA, and it's supported by the MacArthur Foundation. I am Ezenwawagu. In today's Nigeria, electoral reforms are no longer a matter of debate. Indeed, it is a necessity. Each election cycle offers glimpses of progress, but also reveals persistent cracks in the foundation of our democratic process. Our laws set the stage, policies aim to interpret and apply them, yet in practice we often find gaps and inconsistencies that continue to challenge public confidence in the ballot. As we look ahead of the 2027 elections, the question is no longer if reforms are needed, but how they can be pursued effectively in ways that deliver real and measurable change to the Nigerian people. Can we strengthen the Electoral Act to address both emerging and outstanding long-standing gaps? Can we ensure policy alignment across institutions to encourage accountability and collaboration? And most importantly, can we finally close the gap between intention and implementation, where promises on paper are backed by action and consequences? These are the critical questions shaping tonight's discussion. And joining us tonight for this maiden edition of Electoral Reform Town Hall are distinguished voices in Nigeria's democratic space. I'm excited to be joined by Mrs. Victoria Etamesi, the Director of Voter Education and Publicity at the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. I'm also happy to be joined by the ACG in charge of operations at the NSCDC, David Idowu Ojelabi, PhD. And of course, my very good friend and brother, Samson Itodo, Executive Director, Yaga Africa. And last not being the least, the chairman of IPAC, Alhaji Yusuf Mamman. It's my pleasure, gentlemen and lady, to welcome you to this maiden edition of Electoral Reform Town Hall.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
I would, of course, I would like to start with you, Director, and for obvious reasons, at the topmost pyramid of election stakeholdership, INEC sits at top of it. I don't know how much you've looked at the innovations that INEC has introduced, especially from 2015 to today. Which of those innovations stand out very clearly for you and why?
Thank you once again. So if I'm to be biased based on the responsibility that has been assigned me, which is ensuring adequate voter education and publicity for the Commission of Electoral Activities, for me, I think I would hinge on the digitalization of engagement, citizen engagement, and having a discussion, having a platform where we engage easily with all layers of citizens. So we're not jettisoning the traditional platform of voter education, citizen engagement. For us, if we go back to the recommendations that were proffered from the 2023 General Election Report, one of them was that we needed to have a sanitized website where citizens can equally and easily get information with regard to the electoral processes. And I think we're working on that. So we're taking advantage of citizen engagement using our digital platform, which is really active. For instance, our Twitter handle is actually, we have quite a number of followership on our Twitter handle. And so we do periodically, We have citizen discussions on our Twitter handle. So we use the digital space, our social media platforms, significantly well to engage with the electorate. And then going back to looking at the portals that the Commission had developed, another one that I would hold on to would be the media monitoring system, which also allows us to engage with, to track the reports about the Commission so that we can easily pick out misinformation and disinformation and take necessary action when the need arises. So the media monitoring system allows us to put in motion the integrated marketing communication, which allows us again to synthesize citizen behavior with and to tailor messaging so that we have targeted and efficient messages for different layers and categories of participants of the electorate, so to speak.
I'm going to come back to you. I know you've been particular about voter, what you do in voter education,
Yeah.
but I would want us to take a more holistic look at most of what the innovations that have happened. I'm going to come to you, Sam. We spend billions of naira every election cycle from, what technology-driven measures could help, cut costs, and where do you think the country wastes the most money today? Logistics, printing materials, and underutilization of technology.
Well, thanks. I think there are two key aspects of the electoral administration value chain that takes a lot of resources. The first is the manpower, because we need to note that Nigeria is such a large country. You have over 174,000 polling units. You need a minimum of 1 million human beings at the polling units at elections. And those are Nigerians, those are human beings. And you've got to pay, whether it's allowances that's provided to those people. So the cost, the personnel cost is quite high. The second component deals with, because of the population, we have a completely manual voting process where you have ballot papers. So for every 93 million people on our voters register, INEC has to plan for those people, which means if you have 5 elections on general election, each voter is entitled to 5 ballot papers. Each voter is entitled to a PVC that is produced with taxpayers' money. So when you look at all this, you discover that we're expending a lot of money. And so if you have 5 ballot papers per voter, what you would have is close to 1 billion sheets of paper. And so we have to pay for it. And so when people don't show up at the day of elections, we waste a lot of money. And we waste close to about 500 million sheets of papers in 2023 because people didn't show up to cast their vote. And so there have been, discussions about, should we look at electronic balloting? That way it helps us, it saves us a lot of cost. It also protects the environment because the papers that are used are actually are produced out of trees. So that's one dimension to it. The other dimension related to this subject matter about technological innovations is the whole result management process. Yes, you have a completely manual process based on the current provision of the law. But if you automate that process, is there a way it will cut cost? And there's a preponderance of opinion that you need electronic transmission of results to go side by side. Because when we think about the financial cost, we must also think about the integrity cost. And the integrity cost outweighs the financial cost, because if people don't trust that a process will deliver on their sort of preferences or otherwise, then people begin to, disengage from the process because they don't think that their engagement in the process, will yield any results whatsoever. So I think these are some of the issues, and they've been quite topical in the whole discourse on reforms.
Yes. So, but I know that I've read somewhere where you were asking us to be nuanced about technology and how we deploy technology. But in this situation, how can technology be of any assistance in cutting these costs and ensuring that, especially in the areas that we've identified, logistics and the rest of them?
No, I've just highlighted a few. Yes, I talk about and I write about being nuanced with technology because technology is a tool. Technology is not an end, it's a means to an end. It's when we put technology forward as the be all and the is all solution to our problems, that's where we miss it. It's nothing but just a tool that helps us get to a particular destination. Technology, electoral technology, is not infallible. In other words, technologies fail. The same way your phone sometimes, can start acting up, the same way network does. That's the same thing that happens when we think about electoral technology. So it's got its own vulnerabilities, no doubt. However, does it have the capacity to enhance efficiency? Yes, it does. Does it have the capacity to inspire trust? Yes, it does, because it removes the human interference, the human element from the election management process. But I think at the heart of this discussion is the fact that when we think about technology and how it enables us save costs, I've just highlighted the fact that if you go electronic balloting, you would reduce the cost on papers, but the machines are also very expensive because electoral technology itself is expensive. So we have to keep that at the back of our mind. So there's a lot of balancing act that needs to be done.
That needs to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of balancing act, but quite frankly, there's no investment too much to pay for democracy.
Absolutely, and good place to come to the chairman of Interparty Advisory Council, Alhaji Dantile. Technology is the conversation. A lot of Nigerians are thinking that once we deploy technology, that will be the silver bullet to solving some of our problems. How do you think, how are you reflecting on that in IPAC? And especially in the issues around membership management for the political parties, which is the sore point right now, where people are in party A in the morning and in the evening they have moved to another party. And I know that there's been a lot of challenge getting nominal role for political parties who are their members and all of that. Is there any way technology can be of any help?
Thank you for having me once again. I want to wholly align myself with my brother on the submission. We just have a by-election, or we had a by-election recently, and there I concluded that no, one of the best ways to get the least integrity of the system enhanced is the use of technology, even though it is not an end in itself. Yes, but in all, I want to be a bit different from what we are saying, going to the foundation of this problem, the democracy itself. We have one virus that contaminates everything that we are doing in the system, and that virus is corruption that we are not looking at. Because why do we do after every election, why must we go about trying to review the laws? And then the more we do this, the more Nigerian political actors tend to circumvent the rules, the more we do. So it is about what is there that we always want to circumvent these things. Because even if you deploy the technology, somebody will want to set fire on that one day or ensure that that thing doesn't work. So it means there is something about the political office and the man seeking the office that we need to look at, which that is where corruption comes in, and everybody is involved in this, as the politicians, some of the INEC officials, the judicial officers, the security agencies, everything. I just saw one video now before I came here, I think it is a meeting about a political party, and that they want to inaugurate the new executive of that political party, and some person say, "What? After 26 years of democracy, is this where we want to end?" Because after everything, what we are doing is that we are militarizing the system. That someone, well, okay, fine. If it's about violence, we should also prepare for violence. And then we have we already have enough issue of insecurity across board. Why do we want to destroy the system? So technology, 100% in line with that. Okay, it will help in so many things, and then we are already working on that quietly at the Party Advisory Council level. But then the question is, we need to tackle corruption because corruption will end up destroying what we are doing at all levels.
Thank you very much. ACG Ojelade, you are in charge of operations, and I know that the NSCDC has been very, very active in election security provisioning. But I know that election-related violence is localized around polling units, collation centers, and so what intelligence or operational gaps has made this to still be recurring in spite of, all the, work that you have done around these issues?
Thank you once again for having me. We believe when it comes to election activities in Nigeria, it is part of the critical national asset and infrastructure of the federal government, even of the state to the local government level. Gone are the days when what you have just raised, was in place. But nowadays, through the level of interagency collaboration we have now, the government security and intelligence agencies, we have overcome those challenges. We've been meeting regularly. Apart from that, the ICCS, Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Monitoring, being coordinated by the INEC, would meet both at the meetings and outside the meeting to re-strategize on how to approach and nip in the bud all those concerns of Nigeria. Within and among ourselves, we believe we are accountable to the public, to the Nigerian state, to the Nigerian public. Then, if you build a better, peaceful, and vibrant country today, by the time we pull off the uniform, we have somewhere to live in peacefully. That is why we don't want to leave any stone unturned to say that election-related violence will be strategically, handled this time around through the sharing of intelligence. That's why I said earlier, we have the government agency and intelligence agencies as well. All of us, we are working together seamlessly to provide, what we called election protection and all related voting infrastructures. When I talk of voting infrastructures, we're talking about the officials of the INEC and the ad hoc, staff of the INEC, other physical infrastructures like the office, the ballot papers, the machines and tools, that are being used. So gone are the days whereby, we sleep or indulge, anything that will not bring us free, credible, and acceptable election.
I just take that as your opener, but my question is still, very clear about the fact that there are still gaps, and anybody who is even a casual election observer will know that those gaps continue to persist. In fact, it is even more menacing now with vote buying and vote trading. And so I'm asking, is what real issues, apart from the access, the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, which helps you to synergize. But this, apart from violence, there are other, laws, electoral laws that are being, broken with impunity. What new ideas, what new intelligence is possible to be able to arrest some of those challenges?
Like I said earlier, an individual agency cannot do that. That is why all hands are on deck to nip in the bud all those atrocities. to bridge the gap. And whosoever that is caught will be definitely, dealt with legally. That's why I said all of us, both the security and government security agencies and intelligence agencies, we are working together before the election. Even now, I want to tell you that even the campaigns want to be there, and vote buying in particular. You could see what happened in Ogun State. Many people were arrested, and they are being in the process of being prosecuted. In Kano, the same thing happened at Kaduna. So that is to tell you that it is not going to be business as usual.
Yes, we hope to see some of those people sanctioned, because the challenge has not been the arrest of those people. It's been actually bringing them to book. Sam, you are undoubtedly, you are one of the foremost legislative experts that we have in the country today. And I would want to ask you, this legislature keeps amending the Electoral Act, but my challenge is implementation. Do you think Nigeria's challenge is the absence of good laws or the weakness of institutions tasked with enforcing them?
I think it's a combination of both. Where the laws need to be changed because society is dynamic.
You first thank me.
Huh?
Thank me first for
what?
You did it. I said you are the foremost legislative expert.
I
you left that and you're answering questions.
Well, thanks for that recognition. But I think what is important is it's a combination of both, right? Societies evolve, our electoral process evolves. Every election throws new challenges. There are no two elections that are the same. No two elections are the same. Whilst you may have the same actors, but no two elections are the same. And so they throw up new issues, and then you have to retool to address those issues. Where it becomes a problem, and the reason why people are actually sharing this thought, is the more we amend our laws, the less the quality of our elections. It means there's something in between our laws and the final output that is disrupting the reasons why our electoral laws are unable to. The second point is we expect the real perpetrators and those who break the law, they are the ones making the law. You expect them to make laws and not devise means of circumventing those laws. When you don't have statesmen and stateswomen who are making laws for the future, all they think about is how will a particular amendment confer political advantage or electoral victory. And they're not looking at addressing this for our common good. This is where you land. But it doesn't mean that there are certain provisions or proposals that have been introduced that are not progressive in every respect. There are some. In the current bill proposed by the House, things like electronic transmission and manual transmission of results, those are included. You see things like, prisoners voting, early voting, and those special voting arrangements, those are also in the laws, in the proposals. You also see, proposals around increasing the sort of penalties for certain offenses. Those are contained in the electoral bill. But let's see if this passes at the end of the day. But at the heart of this is really the implementation. And, the colleague talked about implementing and enforcing the laws. And I say perhaps maybe one place we should start is this commencement of early campaigns. You can see everywhere in the city, and perhaps in the FCT and in other states, there are billboards everywhere. It appears that we're already in elections. But you and I know that the law is very clear. INEC's regulations are very clear on the commencement of campaigns. We don't expect INEC to pull down those billboards and those campaigns. It is the security agencies that should perform that duty because it is in clear violation of regulations, and the law, because the law says very clear that campaigns shall not commence not earlier than 150 days and not later than 24 hours to the day of an election. So when you think about this, you want to see some proactive action on the part of security agencies, because that way this point about enforcing the law becomes quite profound, because enforcing the Electoral Act is not just a function of the Electoral Commission. There are other regulatory agencies that have a fundamental responsibility of enforcing the law. And so, to your question, yes, we do need some of these laws, but quite frankly, the current electoral law that we have today, the 2022 Electoral Act, has the capacity to deliver the best of elections that we can experience. But if you have politicians whose attitude is one of do or die and they must win election at all costs, you're going to have the current state of the politics.
Well, I think you are going to come back to that. The challenge is who campaigns. Who is the one campaigning? The candidate campaigns. Do you have candidates now? So you have to interrogate all that. But we're going to go on a short break. When we come back, Electoral Reform Town Hall continues. Welcome back. It's still Electoral Reform Town Hall. It's maiden edition, and I'm excited to be joined with some of the finest voices on democracy in our country. I would come to Mrs. Victoria, the Director of Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. There is still a lot of confusion around what IREV is. From a voter education perspective, is it possible you talk us through? Because it's also one of those innovations that you've put out to Nigerians. A lot of people don't understand what it is. Can you put us through what this IREV does? How does it help to increase public trust?
Yeah, IREV, as the name implies, INEC Result Viewing Portal. It is a portal where, again, to ensure transparency in the process, the Commission decided that at the polling unit, at the end of elections, and at the end of aggregation of results at the polling unit, one of the responsibilities of the presiding officer is to take a screenshot of the result using the BVAS, the bimodal voter accreditation device, to take a shot of the result and upload it to a dedicated portal. And that is the IREF portal. And everybody has access to go to that portal and view the results polling unit by polling unit. But I think there was a lot of assumption and misunderstanding. People thought that IREF was going to aggregate the results, but that is not the responsibility, or that is not what IREF was developed for. It's a repository of results, scanned results, not aggregated results. So it gives you a picture. You can go there. You have like a library, an inventory, or a folder where PU by PU, RA by RA, LJ by LJ. Once you click open, you see the results of each of the polling units. But I know we received a lot of backlash because people thought that the way you see it, you have an electronic screen where results would be adding up, and at the end of the day, you see the total aggregates. But that is not what IREF does. IREF just gives you a view of all the polling unit results that are written during the election.
Well, I'll have more questions, but I would want to go to Alhaji Dantile. How much is IPAC investing in training your members on technology? Some of these, innovations that we have seen. If you watched Anambra election, for instance, a lot of political parties didn't have to come to INEC for candidates. Selection, submission of their results and all that. Those innovations, are your party members aware of them? Are they trained on how to use those initiatives that INEC has put out?
I will start by thanking INEC. Why? Because all the innovations you see, they don't come out unless we agree with INEC in our usual regular consultative meetings. So whatever you see INEC bringing out or introducing, it is in agreement with the political parties. So, and then regularly INEC will write and ensure, even if you are not bringing, INEC will ensure that every political party is represented in the course of training of officials for this effect, for this reason. So I want to say I thank INEC. You see, I will continue to say what I have been saying. It's not about INEC, it is not about the police, it's not about, I sympathize with my brother when he was dragging to explain, because he cannot really give you the answer here. He can't. Because somebody is responsible for his appointment, somebody is responsible for his promotion, so he will say some things and they will come to other, why did you say this? So the problem is us, it is the politicians. And I want to thank the president of this country, the President Ahmed Aju Bola. Why? He is one foremost Democrat. Every Nigerian knows he's known globally for his struggle for democracy. But what is happening now, the president needs to speak to both parties, to all Nigerians, on what is happening now. So that Nigerians at all the institutions will sit up to do what they are supposed to do. The security agencies can do this. That's what they are doing now. Look at what I saw. The security agencies they were backing those who were destroying the meetings of it. Is an aberration. It is wrong. We can talk to the people. Democracy is about dialogue, it's about discussion. Because some persons, okay, fine, I have the president backing, I can do. He might not even know what is happening. It happened in the last election, it happened. But if the president speaks, everybody will sit up.
He speaks and acts.
And act.
Not enough.
Yes. So it is we have a longer way to go, but we can do it. The problem starts with the political actor, the politicians. You see, the last election, yes, some persons might have their own opinions about this, but INEC did very wonderful job. That's the only election in the history of this country that the sitting governors lost senatorial elections. They couldn't win. Yes, that does not mean the election was perfect. That was the only election that taxi drivers became House of Reps members. They became state legislators without knowing anybody. So what that means, we can build on whatever flaw that we have and make it better. But at the end of the day, we will go to the judiciary. Some elements in the judiciary will come up again and declare another person.
Alhaji Dantile, I want you to do a mirror reflection.
Yes.
And why I want you to do let's put it on the political parties. INEC will bring out those initiatives, and you have this consultation with INEC.
Yeah.
But apart from that, what do you do with your members in terms of training them? Because yes, the president is a politician, but he's a member of a political party. And he wants his political party to win. But you in the party advisory council, you relate with all the parties. So you are well situated to be able to bring these trainings, bring these innovations closer to all the political parties. I want to know clearly what IPAC is doing.
One, every political party, they propose to capture power. What IPAC does is to see how can we do this thing within a very harmonious, a very peaceful atmosphere, at least, then without circumventing the laws. But it is a difficult situation because some political parties, some political actors feel they are superior to their parties. They determine when you have a political party that is weak financially, for instance, one individual finances the activities of the political party. By extension, he determines what happens in that party. The day subvention of political parties was withdrawn and parties were left at the mercy of individuals. Okay, let's go back to 2023. Some of the parties that became stronger, for instance. We have a Labour Party, we have NNPP, okay? before then, they were not as strong, okay, as they were. Why? The reason is simple, because you have persons who have more financial muscles or followership that are able to drive the activities of the political parties. Some of the problems that are happening in the party, in the PDP, for instance, today, is about who pays, who drives the party financially. The same thing, other political parties.
Yeah,
So
we saw that.
Until the parties are strengthened, until the people, the legislators are able, if they want to sincerely fix Nigerian democracy, the first place is to fix the political parties by restoring the strength of political parties. But as long as the parties will have to struggle to finance some of the activities, they will be at the mercy of individuals that have the deeper pocket to drive the activities of the party. So that is one of the recommendations we have made to the National Assembly to ensure that, to see that a subvention or grants to political parties are restored. Political parties in the during the Shagari period is far different from what you have today. So tomorrow, if one governor decides to move into maybe one of the political parties,
yeah, but we've had we came from funding political parties to where we are, because, and the change happened because of the abuses, where you had people registering political parties.
Now you have manageable size. Political parties are not as many
as large as they were.
And you can. So if INEC is saddled with the responsibility of auditing the accounts of the finances of the political party, and it's still their official their legitimate responsibility, that can be strengthened so that you manage whatever or oversee the spendings of political parties.
There are 151
applications already, but we'll come to that. ACG, perception still persists that that security have not been very professional in past elections. That it persists. But what do you think you need to do more to change and earn public trust?
Like I said earlier, when it comes to elections in Nigeria, it's not a one-man show. It is a collective responsibility. The Nigerian police leads other supports. Now, you made mention of something, and rightly you said the same thing on the training. When agencies are trained together, they tend to understand one another very well. I could draw the example of about 2 or 3 DIGs in the police today. We were together at NIPS, where we obtained our MNI together. I met one of them as a police commissioner in one of the states I served. The relationship was so cordial. And the last election, we were together, moving up and down together, working together, as if we were siblings. I want to tell you that by the time, prior to the election, if we are able to train together more, there's no, we will not be able to understand one another better. The better we understand ourselves, in the classroom, the better we'll be able to work together when we meet on the field. And I want to assure you that with the current situation, we are strategizing on a daily basis. The IG, my CG, and the rest are meeting together. At operational level, we are meeting even at NSA's office on how to get better and get better results for Nigeria. Yes, we want to use the Anambra election as the case studies, and I want to assure you that things will be better when it comes to election, security in Nigeria. We will not disappoint Nigerians because we are equally. Before we put on the uniform, we are Nigerians. We are just mere citizens in uniform. So we need to defend, the interests of Nigerians and the society we belong to. Bearing in mind that one day we are still coming back to that same society, like I said earlier. So I want to assure you that, all of us together, the security agencies and intelligence agencies as well, we are meeting as at Wendu, and we are strategizing on how to get results better for Nigeria to have a very credible, acceptable, and fair and free election for Nigerians. And I want to assure you that
I
we
share
will
your
not fail you.
share your optimism, and I'm hoping that happens. Sam, the National Assembly has been looking at different amendments, diaspora, early voting. There is even a conversation about inmates voting and all that. Which for you is the most transformative of these amendments that are coming? And then I would also just double barrel my question immediately. The harmonization of, the identities, the names, the name and, passports, national car, driving licenses and all of that. All these multiple, what can we do to have a single, means of identity that can also replace the papers that you were talking about, and the kind of money that we put into producing those voters cards?
So let me start with the last point you made about this harmonization. I know there have been several attempts, right from the late President Buhari's time in office, to harmonize our national identity database. Now, for instance, in some climes, the civil register is what is used for elections. So you derive the voters list from the civil register. In our own case, we have a national identity management system. We have a voter register. That is expending a lot of resources. And so if you can harmonize everything in such a way that once you have your national ID and you're 18, you can just cast your vote. Now, part of the proposal, INEC is making at the moment in view of all of this is the need to have downloadable voters card. Because this saying that no PVC, no vote is now obsolete in view of this BVAS that has the voters register. Because in the last election, a lot of people didn't cast their vote, not because they didn't show up to collect their PVCs, but because INEC, in some cases, didn't provide the PVCs. And so they were disenfranchised. So if today you say you can download your voters card, you can use your national ID, you can use your passport, as long as your name is on the voters register, I think it's a very transformative proposal. And it's currently, it's in the current bill being considered in National Assembly. I think perhaps also I highlight two more, perhaps what you call transformative. Today, this current INEC is proposing that the power to appoint resident electoral commissioners should not be vested in the president because of recent experiences about how some wrecked elections at the state. A case in point is the Adamawa elections. You have Sokoto, you also have Abia. We've also seen other instances. And that aligns with the proposal about the independence of INEC, who appoints, the chair and the national commissioners at INEC. And I think it's really important that if the National Assembly considers how to strengthen INEC independence, I think it will go a long way in ensuring some level of transformation, but also, guaranteeing the independence of INEC. But that the independence of INEC cannot be limited to just the operational part, which is about the appointment, but also the financial independence of INEC. As we see it today, INEC has not received all its money from the 2023 elections. The by-elections that held 2 weeks ago were meant to hold last year. Why is it that INEC didn't conduct those elections until August? Well, simply because the funding were not released. So if you're going into a general elections and you don't release money for the Electoral Commission, or you release monies late into the day, what you're simply doing is you're undermining the capacity of the Electoral Commission to deliver credible election. I think the last sort of transformative one is this electronic transmission of results. And we are not saying that electronic transmission of results should supplant or substitute the manual process. We need the manual process, but you need an electronic process to go side by side so that they each serve as a check. But if after you do all this and the politicians don't change their attitude, we'll be back to ground zero. So it's also about the attitudinal changes on the part of our political class.
Thank you, Sam. Mrs. Victoria, I saw a coffee table book that INEC, has given out to the public about innovations. And if you heard Sam clearly, I saw through reading through that document, I saw about 20 clear, if you like, for me, revolutionary innovations that have taken place. Without money, it's not going to be sustained. I know you may not be able to answer that question, but how much more can we do to guarantee financial independence for INEC?
The commission is on first line charge, but just like Mr. Todo mentioned, there were still issues. Again, the by-elections that were conducted a few weeks ago should have been conducted long ago. Funding was an issue. The continuous voter registration exercise as well started late, again also because of funding. Last year wasn't easy for the commission because of the envelope budgeting system, where we're just given a drop in the ocean which could barely address personnel costs and statutory social contributions. But I think after the Honorable Chairman made a presentation or a defense before the National Assembly, and they saw that we were in dire straits, I think they eventually addressed that problem for 2025, because again, the same meager resources that was given in 2024 was also earmarked for 2025. And when he called their attention to what lay ahead, that were basically handicapped, we couldn't do anything, they saw the need to revisit that issue, and the funds were made available. Appropriation was adequately made available to the commission, and that was why we've been able to conduct the pending by-elections and also to commence the continuous voter registration. But even at that, we still need to manage resources in a very frugal manner. Many people have been complaining and asking why the conduct of registration cannot be devolved to the polling units. Cost is the main factor.
I know that.
Cost is a huge factor, and which is why for now,
well, I think as Sam said, that there's a landmine that is, waiting to be detonated very clearly in 2027. In just 30 seconds, everyone can jump in. But I want to start with you, Sam. What changes will you think will make the most sense for 2027 election? Just in 30 seconds.
I think the politicians need to change their attitude. If they change their attitude, they will not try to compromise INEC, they will not put pressure on the security agencies, and they will not deceive voters.
Thank you. Alhaji Dantile.
I've been saying the same thing. The problem is the system, is the politician, is corruption. Okay, so that corruption affects everything we are doing. Because if you don't have enough to throw around, you won't pay someone to be a thug. If you don't have enough to throw around, you won't the judicial.
Thank you very much. Just your final thoughts.
Yes, sir. From Minister of Interior, we just had a 1 week long retreat. Strengthening the system, strengthening the personality, and so as to prepare for the future needs of Nigeria. And I want to assure you, from our end, we will not disappoint Nigerians.
This is where we draw the curtain on this episode of Electoral Reform Town Hall, and we wish to especially thank our guests very warmly, Mrs. Victoria Etamesi, Director of Voter Education and Publicity at the Independent National Electoral Commission, and then David Idowu Ojelabi, PhD, ACJ in charge of operations, NSCDC, and Samson Itodo, Executive Director, Yaga Africa, and Alhaji Yusuf Mamman Dantile, IPAC National Chairman. My name is Eze Nwawagu. Thank you for watching.